Welcome back to our trip through Exodus. And this has been a great adventure studying the book of Exodus. And we go into chapter 35 this time. And this is the construction of the tabernacle, the holiest building project ever. And what an amazing thing to really go through this and give this some thought. And it's far more than you could cover on a video, but it's something you do with your Bible open before the Lord, and just to look at these things, because the tabernacle ends up being this picture of Christ. And we'll see some more of that later, but it's things that you can explore in your meditations and your study as you sit before your scriptures and in the presence of the Lord. Let's pick it up in verse 1, chapter 35, verse 1. Moses had just come down again from the mountain, and he spoke to the children of God, and he had a radiant glow about him from just the being in the presence of God, that people could tell, people could see this in his countenance, in his face, that the reflection of the glory of God was in his being. And that's something for us to consider. Would our presence in the Lord, if we spent that time in the presence of the Lord, would we begin to reflect his glory where others see God within our countenance, in our words, in our actions, in the things that we do. Moses assembled the whole Israelite community, and he said to them, "These are the things the Lord has commanded you to do." And so he's beginning telling them what they're commanded to do, and he's given them the covenant, sort of this reinstitution of the covenant again, kind of post-calf version of the covenant laws, and really with a focus on this idolatry and their proclivity to be rebellious and hard-hearted, and what he called stiff-necked, hard to turn them back to the Lord. These are the things the Lord has commanded you to do. For 6 days work is to be done, but the seventh day shall be holy, a day of Sabbath rest to the Lord. So we're going to begin this building project, and with this reminder of the Sabbath regulations, that this thing, even though this is the holiest building project, this thing is where men will meet God, where they will worship the Lord, where they will deal with their sins in the presence of the Lord, where priests will minister to the Lord. And this is the holiest place on earth when they get completed. And yet, even as important as that is, it doesn't supersede the Sabbath regulations to them, that the Lord gives them this from the very beginning, that these Sabbath regulations are to apply. So now you're taking a Sabbath law that he said over and over again at this point in time. Through the book of Revelations, we've seen this. Through the book of Exodus, we've seen this multiple times, talking about the Sabbath. And so this is the application of the Sabbath. Now that you're getting ready to do work, this is the application and the expectation that this Sabbath would be followed. Whoever does any work on it will be put to death. And that just gives you the idea of just how important this Sabbath is to the Lord, that he would call for the violation of it would call for death. And he goes on to say, "Do not light a fire in any of your dwellings on the Sabbath day," which was sort of the picture that's the beginning of the violation of the Sabbath, even to cook in their to provide even for themselves, that they needed to trust the Lord and be prepared for the Sabbath, and that the Lord would take care of them. Verse 4, Moses said to the whole Israelite community, he established this Sabbath is sort of the context and the application of the law and the context for how they're going to perform this project. Moses said to the whole Israelite community, "This is what the Lord has commanded. From what you have, take an offering for the Lord. Everyone who is willing," important word there, willing, is to bring to the Lord an offering of gold, silver, and bronze, blue, purple, scarlet yarn, and fine linen, goat hair, ram skins dyed red, and another type of durable leather, acacia wood, olive oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incense and onyx stones and other gems to be mounted on the ephod of the breastpiece. Pretty fascinating. This is Moses going to take a offering amongst the people, and this was just for those that were willing to give. That wasn't anything going to be built in this project where it said you have to do this, you have to give that, and if you don't, something would happen. But that this was a request for them to give willingly as their heart was moved, and this is the way we do offering at churches, that where God leads, God provides. Many churches take that attitude, and it doesn't make them more right or anything. It's just their attitude towards the giving, and it is important to have healthy giving, but it requires so much caution because there's been so much abuse within the church over the years, and it becomes a stumbling stone to many people. So it requires caution, and this is fascinating because you do just see God's provision. When those people left Egypt, they were carrying things out of Egypt that were going to be used to build this tabernacle. Now they had no understanding, no concept of what a tabernacle was, or that they would build one at that point in time. They were just getting out of Egypt, and the Lord had moved on the heart of these Egyptians to give them to give them anything and everything. And what a strange thing when you first read it as they were on the way out, that they were hauling all of this out of Egypt. And this ends up to being like over 7 tons of precious metals that were carried out. 7 tons of precious metals carried out. And that's not to even mention, imagine, excuse me, how much goat hair is required to spin yarn to make curtains out of, to cover this tabernacle, to make these curtains. I mean, it just blows my mind that the tediousness of taking goat hair and making yarn and spinning this all out into and weaving it into curtains. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing, and they're doing this not in the best of conditions. They're in the midst of the wilderness, right? So it gives you a real a concept of what this project looked like. That this was something that they had no concept of, but yet God had already moved in His way to bring all these provisions, all these things that were required, and then He moved in their heart for them to give those things to the project. All who are skilled among you are to come and make everything the Lord commanded. Well, where did that skill come from? Again, the Lord had provided those skills within those people and moved in their hearts to where they would step forward. And this is all pretty cool because you can see the same thing within the church today, that the church gifts people in many different things. And so that in the body of believers within the framework of the church, He provides people that are teachers and people that are leaders and administrators and those with gifts of mercy and so forth, and equips the whole body and in a balanced fashion and moves in their hearts so that people step forward and serve in those things. And you see something very similar here in God's people. The tabernacle with its, the Lord commanded them to make everything. Started the tabernacle with its tent and its coverings, clasp frames, crossbars, posts, and bases. The ark with its poles and atonement cover and curtain that shields it. The table with its poles and all the articles of the bread of presence. The lampstand that is for light and its accessories, lamps and oil for the light. The altar of incense with its poles, anointing oil. Fragrant incense, the curtain for the doorway at the entrance of the tabernacle, the altar's burnt offering and its bronze grating, its poles and also utensils, the bronze basin with its stand, the curtains of the courtyard and the posts and basin, a curtain for the entrance to the courtyard, the tent pegs for the tabernacle in the courtyard, and there were ropes, woven garments worn for ministering in a sanctuary, both the sacred garments for Aaron the priest and the garments for his son when they serve as priests. So this is sort of the shopping list, the scope of the project in this, what these people are going to build. Verse 20, when the whole Israelite community withdrew from Moses' presence, Moses laid the whole scope of the building project. You know, they imagine all of the people, someone must have looked at this list of what we're going to build and said, this is huge. This is a massive undertaking. This is a huge building project. This is overwhelming. It's going to take a lot of materials. I don't know. I have to think about this. And so the whole Israelite community withdrew from Moses' presence, it says, verse 21, and everyone who was willing and whose heart moved them came, and they brought an offering to the Lord for the work on the tent of meeting, for all its service and for the sacred garments. So everybody left, and there was no commitment there, but Moses laying this out before them, letting them know the need, and they walked away, and the Lord moves in their heart, and they willingly return, and they come back, and they bring this through this move in their heart. They bring this offering, and for the service and for the all the sacred garments, all for the tent of meeting. All were willing, men and women alike came, brought gold jewelry of all kinds, brooches, earrings, rings, and ornaments. They all presented their gold as a wave offering to the Lord. A wave offering was a way of transferring ownership. It was to say, Lord, this is now yours, that I'm taking this and in a wave offering and transferring ownership to you. Everyone who had blue, purple, or scarlet yarn, or fine linen, or goat hair, ram skins dyed red, or other durable leather brought them. Those presenting an offering of silver and bronze brought it as an offering to the Lord. And everyone who had acacia wood for any part of the work brought it. Every skilled woman spun with her hands and brought what she had spun, blue, purple, scarlet yarn, and fine linen. And all the women who were willing and had the skill spun the goat hair. And the leaders brought onyx stones and other gems to be mounted on the ephod and the breastpiece. And they also brought spices that are olive oil for the light, and for the anointing oil for the fragrant incense. All the Israelite men and women who were willing, brought to the Lord free will offerings for all the work that the Lord, through Moses, had commanded them to do. And so the Lord moved in the hearts of people. The offerings began to come in. People stepped forward, and suddenly this project that seemed so big and so maybe overwhelming to them became very manageable, and they all become function in part of what God is moving and doing amongst them. And so separately, they could all do certain things, but together they accomplished something that was far beyond, and it really becomes something very supernatural, where they met a supernatural God, a holy God, and so they're assembling something that is far beyond the sort of the sum of all of its parts, you might say. Verse 30, then Moses said to the Israelites, see, the Lord has chosen Bezalel, son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and he has filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, and all kinds of skills, to make artistic design for work in gold, silver, bronze, to cut and set stones, to work in wood, and to engage in all kinds of artistic crafts. So I sort of mentioned this before, but any one of these things, to work with gold would be an amazing art, and something that would take maybe even a lifetime to really get proficient at, to get good at, to be artistic at. But to take gold or silver, bronze, all these are very different. You work with them in many different ways, and then to cut and set stones is like, not only was he a sort of a smith in this working with these metals, but he also was doing like jewelry work in cutting and setting stones. And they engraved these stones like you would engrave a seal, that it had designs. And so they would engrave the names on these stones of the tribes, which is really fascinating, that how meticulous and specific all of this is. So Bezalel had these artistic and skills of a craftsman and an artist, but he wasn't creative in this sense. He might have been creative in all his other endeavors in life, but in this case, the design came from God, and he had it on his heart to build this design exactly the way Moses had given them this vision, these plans to do this. So this was a project in which they would make everything exactly like Moses had given them the plans to do. There wasn't any, well, I think I'll add this, change this, or make this and put my little signature on this, or make this something a little special. But everything was exactly like God would have them make that. So Bezalel, being a craftsman, being an artist, brought all of this, but there was no originality brought to this project anyway, that it all was done in obedience to what the Lord called him to do. And he was given both, and he has given both him and Aholiab, son of Ahisamach of the tribe of Dan, the ability to teach others. Well, there's something fascinating. Not just a craftsman or someone that could work with their hands and build things or do woodworking and smith work or jewelry type work with stones and engraving, but he gave them the ability to teach others. That's not an ability that everybody has. To teach others is to invest in others, to transfer those skills, to encourage. It takes a lot of encouragement to teach others. It takes a lot of patience to teach others, and to believe in other people. And so this is a fine skill that God has given them, and I'll call it a skill and ability that he has given these two men to invest in others and to disciple others and apprentice others in these crafts, that they might too take part in what God has called them to do. And he has filled them with skill to do all kinds of work as engravers, designers, embroiders in blue, purple, scarlet yarn, and fine linen, and weavers, and all of them skilled workers and designers. We're going to go on into 36 a little bit. So Bezalel, Aholiab, and every skilled person to whom the Lord has given skill and ability to know how to carry out all the work of constructing the sanctuary are to do the work just as the Lord commanded. Then Moses summoned Bezalel and Aholiab and every skilled person whom the Lord had given ability and who was willing to come and do the work. And they received from Moses all the offerings the Israelites had brought to carry out the work of constructing the sanctuary. So imagine Moses suddenly calling all these workers for them and go, here's all your materials. This is all the offerings that have been brought. And that wasn't something that happened in overnight or probably even in a week, because everybody is spinning yarn and everybody is weaving and everybody's in it. It probably took some time. So there's probably some time in there, and then Moses calls them and says, here's the materials that are required for the tabernacle for you to receive. And the people continued to bring freewill offerings morning after morning. And so it just said a sort of time went on, morning after morning. Stuff just kept coming in, that the Lord was moving in people's hearts, that they were working and creating and spinning yarn and harvesting goat hair. Imagine that. He would be the one that sheared goats and brought the goat hair to the ladies who were spinning it and making yarn, it says. So somebody had to do that. It was a bunch of goats that didn't have much hair. So all the skilled workers who were doing all the work on the sanctuary left what they were doing and said to Moses, the people are bringing more than enough for doing the work the Lord had commanded to be done. So, verse 6, then Moses gave an order, and they sent this word throughout the camp: no man or woman is to make anything else as an offering for the sanctuary. It was to say, okay, you can stop now. This is amazing, because God moved in their heart, and they just kept giving morning after morning. They just kept bringing more and more, which is fascinating, because this is the same people that got scolded for building a golden calf. And when I guess that desire to be religious, maybe that desire to reach out to God is done in a correct way, in an obedient way, this is what it looks like, is that this is pouring forth out of them, that they just want to be part of this. They just want to provide, and they do so in an abundance where Moses has to say, enough, stop, we don't need any more, we can't use any more. And so the people were restrained from bringing more. They had to be restrained from bringing more building materials for this temple. And so this is people that are eager to see this temple constructed, and wanted to be part of it, and they had to be restrained from doing so. And so the people were restrained from bringing more, because what they already had was more than enough to do the work. What a cool thing. So Moses sets the people work conditions. You're going to work 6 days. We're taking a Sabbath day. This is important for the Lord, and so we're going to be an example as they build to the people. They're going to be set apart and different in the way they construct this. And it's fascinating, because the very thing they're constructing is going to set them apart from the entire world. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the next video, when we get into all of this furnishings again. And so the Lord moves in their heart. They give in a big way, and you just see that they're blessed in being able to give and be part of what God is doing. And maybe that's our carry away today. Maybe that's our lesson, that when the Lord leads, whether it be a church, a group, or just an individual, He may be leading you to do something, and it feels like you feel inadequate. There's not enough provision. But when you step in obedience, that those provisions come, that God moves in our hearts, that things begin to happen, and it becomes a blessing to those that are being obedient, stepping in the path that the Lord has laid out for them, and then it's exciting just to be part of what God is doing, and to see the results, and all the glory goes to Him. But what an exciting adventure it is to serve the Lord and see what all He is doing. And I think that's what these people experienced. I think these people had been through a lot, and you consider what they had been through, from even going back in their lives of bondage, but even just the escaping of that, and the fear and all that had gone on as they became sort of these followers of God through Moses into the wilderness, away from a life that was one of bondage, but it was also a known factor. And to see that change and feel that change happening right before their eyes, this was an exciting adventure for them. And so I think that's our lesson, to be engaged in that exciting adventure that God has for each of us. And it never gets old, and never stops, and it's always exciting when we're walking in obedience and doing the things God's called us to do. And so I hope that encourages you to look at that in your own life today. Thanks for joining me for this piece of our great adventure through the book of Exodus, and we'll be back and finish 36, 37, probably 38, and in the next video, as we talk a little bit about all of the furnishings and the construction, the specifics of the construction. And so we'll see you next time. Thanks.